Hello, I'm Kimber, and welcome to the Native News Update. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at IndianCountryTV.com. And here's the news for today from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. 6 Native American women tribal leaders will be honored at this year's National Indian Gaming Association's annual conference and trade show. The tribal leaders will be honored in recognition of their commitment and leadership for their tribal nations and all of Indian country. Honorees include Lynn Balbuena, chairman of the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians; Fawn Sharp, president of the Quinault Indian Nation; Shannon Hosley, president of Stockbridge-Munsee Band, Mohican Nation; Melanie Benjamin, chief executive of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe; Stephanie Brine, chairman and CEO of the Porch Band of Creek Indians; and Bernadine Burnett, president of Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation. For the 5th time, the U.S. Supreme Court has affirmed Yakama rights under the 1855 treaty with the United States. The March 19th decision in Washington State Department of Licensing versus Cougar Den prohibits Washington from taxing a Yakama trucking company for using state highways to transport fuel to the Yakama Nation. The prohibition was previously put in place by Washington's own courts, but the state appealed those decisions. Cougar Den takes its place in a line of cases extending back to early decisions protecting Yakama treaty rights. The High Court's majority ruled that the state's taxes would restrict travel for the purpose of trade, in violation of the 1855 treaty with the Yakama. Article 3 of the treaty guarantees the peoples of the Yakama Nation travel upon public highways in common with citizens of the United States. The High Court's majority turned to the historical record to understand the guarantee, the way the Yakamas understood it in 1855. Yakama Nation Chairman Jode Gowdy said the U.S. Supreme Court's decision reinforces the Yakama way of life, both in historical contexts as well as modern interpretation. Nearly 150 years ago, the nation's attention was fixed on a remote area near the Oregon-California border, where about 50 Modoc Indian soldiers were fending off 1,000 U.S. Army soldiers from within a fortress of lava beds. The Modoc War was a 6-month standoff that ended in 1873, was then the costliest American Indian conflict in lives lost and money spent. The war remains vivid in the collective memory of the Klamath tribes. Lava Beds National Monument has preserved battle sites from the war, but State Senator Fred Garrod says broader awareness of the conflict and subsequent execution of 4 Modoc Indians by the federal government is needed. Garrod was so moved by a 2011 documentary by Oregon Public Broadcasting on the conflict and executions that he has proposed that Oregon express regret for the federal government's execution of Modoc soldiers. Senate Concurrent Resolution 12 states that we, the members of the 80th Legislative Assembly, commemorate the Modoc War of 1872 to 1873, and we recognize and honor all those who lost their lives in the most costly conflict. And be it further resolved that we express our regret over the execution of Kintbush, Scotchin John, Black Jim, and Boston Charlie in October 1873, and for the expulsion of the Modoc tribe from their ancestral lands in Oregon. After a unanimous vote on March 27th, the resolution now heads to the Senate. Arizona State University is on track to establish a college chapter of the Native American Journalists Association, a decision that the community members say will foster diversity and inclusion within Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. The association, which was established in 1983, serves as a family, a networking tool, and a catapult for the careers of Native American journalists nationwide. However, up until recently, the association did not have chapters on college campuses. Brian Pollard, Director of Programs and Strategic Partnerships at NIGA, says the organization prides itself in advocating for its members' success and ensuring that the mainstream media's reporting is accurate and contextual when covering Native American stories. NIGA recently started a chapter at the University of Oklahoma as well, and there are many more chapters in the works. Enrolled members of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians in North Carolina will soon be able to gather sochan, a traditional plant in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The band's principal chief, Richard Sneed, said it's a historical agreement, a first not only in Indian country, but also a first in the nation. A pact agreement was signed between the National Park Service and the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians that allows the tribe to harvest part of the sochan plant, a food source much like spinach that the Cherokee have consumed for thousands of years. Federal regulations prohibit removing plants from national parks for preservation and conservation reasons. But a Park Service modification a couple of years ago allows federally recognized tribes to seek an agreement to gather plants from the parks for traditional purposes if an environment assessment finds no significant impacts. The Eastern Band completed that process for this traditional plant. And that's another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining me and have a grand day.
Step into Seven Winds Casino Lodge and Conference Center.
Come and discover everything we have to offer.
Unlimited gaming action. Northwoods hospitality. Delicious all-you-can-eat buffet. Relaxation and comfort. Great drinks and good times. Big wins, big fun. It's all here at Seven Winds Casino Lodge and Conference Center in the heart of the Great North Woods.